And we're on.
Ron.
We're on. Ron and Justin.
Yeah, mate.
Just in case Ron doesn't show up.
We're back.
We're back indeed. Dougie's on the juice. He's juicing.
Hey, mate, you careful. Don't level those accusations at me.
It's been a little while. We've upgraded. Look at this neat setup.
I'd say it's an upgrade and a downgrade because it's a nice, neat little setup and it's comfy for me because it's in my spare bedroom that I work out of.
Your abode.
But so we're no longer in your office; we're in my office. But we've sans couch and we're just
no more green velvet couch.
No more green velvet couch, and we're
Such a
also
shame.
sans. I don't know, just in a city location.
Yeah, true.
So
Is Clayfield in a city? I thought it is.
I mean, it is in a city, but it's not in a city, I wouldn't think. I don't know. Where do you draw the line? Like, where do you actually...
I reckon inner city ends at 2 bus zones.
Okay. That still doesn't
2
mean
bus
much to
zones
me.
out.
I just tap on and tap off. I don't know what the zones are.
I heard a theory when I first moved to Brisbane. I had lots of friends, and a lot of those friends now have like broken that rule once they've had kids and what have you.
Yeah.
They were like, I don't live further than 2 bus zones out at like Circle. North or south, whatever, but 2 bus zones because they were young and footloose and fancy free.
Yeah.
And, they wanted to go to gigs. They wanted to go out to nice places for dinner and what have you. They wanted to go to shows. They wanted to be social. And I think, that all changed a little bit when they had kids and they had to, I think it's a bit more affordable living.
I mean, yeah, it is and it isn't.
Out in the Digleys.
I definitely know, people that are living, sort of North Lakes area, and it was still real expensive to buy a house out there because it's just expensive to buy a house everywhere. But then I know some people that have even that's too far away for me. But then I know people that have moved almost all the way out to Ipswich, and I'm by the time you drive in and out, that's
your savings in fuel or travel or
that, and also you're so far out of the town, you're so far out of Brisbane proper that you may as well I used to live on Sunshine Coast and I moved to Brisbane because I got sick of doing the commute all the time. Yeah. But then when people were like, oh, why don't you move to somewhere that's a bit cheaper and a bit quieter, like North Lakes or Springwood or somewhere like that, I was like,
you mean
well,
Springfield?
No, well, Springwood. So near Logan.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's deep south.
Well, that's what I mean is that was, I had a mate who said, oh, look, I think it's really good out here. You should move here when you move to Brisbane. I went, well, no, I'm moving to Brisbane. I'm not moving to Logan.
Yeah, because that is actually another city.
I don't want to be 35, 40 minutes away from the city because where I was living on the beach, I was only an hour and 5 minutes away from the city. So why wouldn't I just live at the beach?
Yeah. I actually have a theory about this, Doug, and I don't know, you tell me if you feel the same, because I feel like maybe we do because we both grew up in regional Queensland, central Queensland to be exact, and I have a theory that if I ever get to the point where I feel like I'm going to move out to one of those places or whatever, the living is pretty comparable to just, you might as well move back to Gladstone or Rockhampton.
Exactly what I've always said.
Yeah. And if I ever get to that point, I probably will just move home to Rockhampton.
Yeah.
Because at that point, there's nothing that I want to do that requires me to...
It's handy still being within an hour of
and also,
where everything's happening.
I should point out we're both childless.
Yeah, true.
So we are at that point in our lives where that's not a factor we have to consider.
Yeah, it's funny though because I still... like the idea because I grew up out in the middle of nowhere, actually Gladstone, but then outside Gladstone on a farm. I really like the idea of being sort of closer, at least, even somewhere like North Lakes, close enough that there's actually stuff to do. And I love living in an apartment, and I think living in an apartment with kids, as long as you've got an apartment that's got good amenities nearby, would actually be pretty sick too. Because when we lived in Sunny Coast, our upstairs neighbours, they had a little boy who was maybe I think 4 or 5, and they lived in an apartment 3 levels up, but there was a backyard outside. That we were right near the beach and everything, beaches, and you can get the apartment living where you don't have to worry about mowing the backyard and the roof's got a leak and all that shit. It's hard enough having kids as it is.
Because there, I think there's that old the Australian sort of point of view of but what about a backyard for them to play in?
Yeah.
It's like
you ever been to the park?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're out in the backyard playing in the backyard because you're inside because you don't want to hang out with them. And don't get me wrong, I know that it's difficult to have kids and it's nice to be able to say,
disclaimer,
just go outside and play and stuff like that. But like, at least for like the first sort of like 5 sort of years, I think that I warm more to the idea of being able to do something like apartment living and then go to the park because the ideal situation, if you can manage it, would be, hey, I'm going to take you to play outside rather than fuck off outside. Yeah.
Also, I should probably put in a disclaimer here. This is not 2 non-dads telling people how to dad.
Well, this is a guy that grew up on a farm in a family where my family didn't really like... There was very work focused. Everything was pretty work focused, and 150 acres of backyard didn't do me any better. Pushed me into the city. So
yeah, totally.
Yeah, quality over quantity.
Speaking of quality over quantity, I want to see the Chili Peppers last night and Post Malone.
Glowing reviews, I've heard.
Well, here's the thing, Doug. I'm in an interesting position here on this because my tickets to said gig, and I was in a corporate box, I might add, which was very, very cushy. I've never done that before. It's very nice. The tickets were a very, very generous Christmas gift to me from my sister and not really my brother-in-law because they're not married, but ostensibly my brother-in-law. And, a very, very generous gift. There was booze and food laid on. It was and when I say food, like gourmet food, like
corporate
lovely
box.
Prawns, man. Like just loads of prawns. Lovely stuff, right? The thing that's hard to reconcile though, right, is like to be grateful for such an amazing experience, but then not enjoy the show.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, how do you reconcile that? Like, I am so grateful. I'm so lucky to be gifted this, to have this experience, to share it with my 19-year-old nephew, which is like a great thing, to like sharing music, with people that also love music and, and you love talking about music with them and all that sort of stuff is a brilliant experience. It's great. And especially when it's family. And then to be like, ooh, that sucked.
Yeah.
Like it's really hard to like in your brain to not seem ungrateful. Like I had to keep telling myself like be grateful. This is very few people get to do this.
Well, I did see the analogy of just like you can be grateful for having kids, but you don't have to be grateful for getting socks again for Christmas.
Yeah. So let me just walk you through the night, right? Like I feel very grateful because with our corporate box tickets, we weren't in the spot where we had to, like there were some people that lined up for 2 hours to get in.
Yeah.
Like the actual event management,
crazy.
The actual event management of the day was
piss poor.
Very bad, very bad. I've been to plenty of shows at that venue. I've been to football games and that sort of stuff there. I've never seen it that bad. So we were lucky. We had to go all the way around to gate C to get in, and so we got in, and you go up, and it's brilliant. It's really, really nice.
Would you say though that it's almost like the pandemic just made all these venues forget, like the R&A showgrounds and stuff, forget what it's like to actually put on a gig? Because after
Good Things,
with the line around the block and missing out, I'm like, I remember hearing about that for the first Soundwave.
Yes. So I that was exactly my feedback around Good Things as well. Like everything to do with the music and the bands and the stages was absolutely spot on, perfect. There wasn't a single band that went on late. It ran really, really well. It was, I genuinely think, because there hasn't been an event of that size, at least in the heavy music world. So I think it was 25,000 or thereabouts was the cap on that. And there hadn't been an event of that size at R&A, or at least that like I'd been along to,
5+
pre-COVID,
years.
yeah. And I think what happened was, because one of the other big issues on that day was the food vendors.
Right.
Like they ran out of water, they ran out of food. I think they catered based on Good Things 2019 numbers, perhaps, because that was considerably less.
Did they not?
Did you go to that one?
No. Well, no, I didn't.
That one was perfect. Like that one was like that was a dream. It was like a boutique festival. But there was like half the numbers, right?
But don't they have access to like the amount of tickets that have been sold for? You would think
probably, but I think they went pretty boutique with some of the providers. Like certainly the alcohol providers, they went with like local, which I applaud, but I don't think they were ready for the demand. I don't think, and then the other thing that I think hampered the shit out of that particular festival ground, they laid it out in such a way I've never seen before. I've never seen a festival lay out their festival at RNA in that way, and it didn't work. It didn't work at all. They had the street running alongside as like their food vendors and all that sort of stuff, and everyone queued across the street, so there was no thoroughfare through there, and like there was just a couple of unfortunate choices of putting some bands that were like far bigger than those smaller stages, like Electric Callboy. I'll put out there, that was almost dangerous how many people were there. Thankfully no one was injured, but they could easily have been on the main stage, and like there was someone that I saw on
well, they're verging on like
stage,
like Eurobeat.
Sabaton could easily have been on that smaller stage. Like there was not many people watching Sabaton.
Yeah, no. I couldn't name a Sabaton song anyway. But yeah.
I can't stand Sabaton. I cannot stand it.
The Chili Peppers gig.
Yes, sorry, back to that. So opened by Post Malone, which like prior to yesterday I couldn't have named a Post Malone song, let alone sung one to you. And like at the risk of sounding very, very old, like it's just not my thing, at all. And it like, oh boy, it's really hard for me to not just be like, where's the fucking talent in this? Like I've seen the guy, like the only thing of Post Malone I'd seen prior to yesterday was during COVID, he did like a Nirvana. He did like a whole set of Nirvana covers with Travis Barker, and it was sick. Dude can play, dude can sing, he shreds. Like he was like changing guitar, like he obviously knew his gear, like he was absolutely ripping it. And then to see him come out, and I thought one, he'd have a backing band. No backing band at all. It was just tracks.
Yep.
And just him.
Yeah.
No dancers, just him. There was a wall of lights behind him, and he had some pyro on the stage. And it's really hard, I think, to like being the age I am, to not like shit on it, but obviously like you understand that like there are so many people that are here that love what he's doing, and he's obviously successful at what he's doing, and it's connecting somewhere.
Though that's the problem. It's not the problem, but like the reason that you and I wouldn't connect with it is the same reason that I went to go and see No Name a while ago, which is like a chick from the States who raps. And she is sort of a bit more like Chance the Rapper, kind of like it's, lo-fi, neo-soul kind of stuff. But even though she had musicians on stage, it was a great show and they did well. But I realized, I'm like, the crowd here is different.
Yeah.
Right? The people that come to see a show like this is very different. Also, what they do on stage is a little bit less like, hey, let's play these songs and make it rip, and more a little bit like, we're just kind of hanging out on stage.
Yeah.
And that's the vibe that I got from watching some of the clips of Post Malone.
Yeah.
Was it's very much, and Kanye's the same as well. It's just coming out on stage.
I don't even want to mention that fuckwits on our podcast.
Yeah, no, that's fair. But I mean, like, all the clips of his shows that I'd seen in the past, and a lot of the rappers now as well, they come out and it's just them with their tracks. They don't even have like
Yeah.
a DJ on the
No.
stage or, hype men or any of that stuff. There's nothing else going on. It's just them with a microphone and usually like a screen behind them.
And
it's
these
not
are
our
the things,
vibe.
Yeah, no. These are the things that like, this is where I like couldn't reconcile. Like, I was like, what talent is or rehearsal or anything is required here? He was singing along to backing tracks. Not only that, there were multiple vocal layers in the track that were helping him along. His live vocal was auto-tuned to the shithouse.
Yeah.
The dancing that he was doing is not rehearsed nor skillful. Like, everything just smacked to me of like, none of this requires talent, just lots of money for production and pyro. Because he had pyro in every song.
Yeah.
He had like fireworks going off on the top of, like,
For what impact?
but yeah.
Yeah.
And like, for whatever rhyme or reason it connects with an audience, cool. Not with me. But like, yeah, it made me just go like, what is actually... And then, not only that, within the songwriting itself, there's no light and shade. There's no chorus verse. And I'm not saying that all songs have to have that structure, but there's no release or tension at all. It's like, honestly, 90% of his songs sounded like the same song over and over. I couldn't hear what he's saying.
Yeah.
Because the mix was...
You know what it is,
Yeah.
though, right?
And it's Old Man Yells at Cloud. I get it.
It
But
is Guy raps Meshuggah. Not that it sounds like Meshuggah, but what I mean is everything you just described, you could kind of say about Meshuggah's live show. Hear me out. Because those guys come out, right? Yeah, they headbang and stuff like that, but they're not jumping around going crazy. They're older dudes, and what they play is very technical shit.
Very technical. That's where I think the skill comes in for those guys.
There's definitely skill.
They've done their 10,000 hours to be able to do that.
But I'm not saying that they don't have like that they're comparable skill wise. But what I mean is with their show, they come out, they've got their light show.
Yeah.
They come out, they stand and deliver, they play their stuff. It's very technical, so that they're giving that. But also, you could argue that a lot of their songs don't have
structure.
Have a structure that most people would go along and feel rise and fall and stuff. You go to a Meshuggah show because you want to see them do the whole time, and you're expecting to go into a big, long riff. It's an hour of riff.
Yes, I get that. I would say there's way more dynamic in a Meshuggah song than a...
Once again, not shitting on Meshuggah at all, but I mean, like, I feel like because we don't get what Post Malone does, I feel people would feel the same way about a Meshuggah show if they went into heavy shit.
That.
They would go there
That's
and they go, I don't know. Because I can tell you right now, when I was 19 or 18, I think, I went to see Meshuggah for the first time. Yeah. And I was into heavy shit already, but I was not, like, ready for Meshuggah yet. Because,
Oh, did you hate it?
Well, I didn't hate it. I liked some songs. I knew that I enjoyed it. But after 45 minutes of an hour and 15-minute show, I was like, I don't know these songs well enough. Yeah. I don't enjoy this yet enough. It's 10 years too early for me.
Yeah.
And I started to sort of drift off and be like, come on, guys, wrap it up.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
Yeah.
Which then like takes us into... I should also state there were two songs of Post Malone's that I actually really enjoyed. Yeah. Towards the end of the set, and surprise, surprise, one of them is the one that he does like a duet with Ozzy Osbourne. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, I like this one because he actually screamed. It's like, he actually got a great scream on him.
Yeah, yep.
And I was like, cool, where's that more often?
You know, my favourite Post Malone record there's a guy called Alex Melton. He does pop punk covers on YouTube. Okay. He does like Blink-182 does Blah.
Yes. I've
those
seen
kind of things.
Yeah.
And so Post Malone's album that got really big was Beer Bongs and Bentleys. Yes. And so Alex Melton named his cover album. He just covered basically like most of the hits off that album. Okay. And he called it PBRs and Tellies.
Yes.
Yeah. And I really quite enjoy that.
Scene.
Yeah.
That's way more our
definitely,
scene.
Yeah, pop punk version of that. So, but yeah, Chili Peppers.
Yeah. Like, and it's really annoyed me today to see all of these reviews come out that are like just simping it. And I'm just like, you scared motherfuckers.
What was
to say the truth?
The Courier Mail basically, it was like
one of the greatest rock shows of all time.
Yeah.
which is absolute garbage. Like, and look, I go back to like I'm really struggling with like not wanting to shit on it as so much because I'm like it was such a lovely gift.
Yeah.
But it's like if I had paid for that show, I would have felt ripped off.
Yeah.
So ripped off.
I can't imagine what that corporate box cost, but also there was that guy I was telling you about that
it was more than that
on the barrier.
It's more than that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Of course it was. So he paid $530 to basically stand on the barrier in like GA.
Gen Pop.
Yeah. And so he would have been down there all day. And then in the end, he said, like, this guy's in his early 20s, and he said that he wished they'd played more of the classics. Obviously, he's like, didn't really need all the new shit that they played, and I get that they've got to do that. But the other thing he said is, I paid $530, and they played for something like an hour and 10 or something.
An hour 15, yeah.
An hour 15.
Hour 15.
You like the Foo Fighters for years have been not only cheaper than that, but you go there and they start to test your patience.
I was at that last Foo Fighters show at Suncorp.
Yeah, right.
It was a 3-hour show.
Yep.
I feel you could have cut that middle hour and I still would have felt like I got my value out of them.
100%.
Because that feeling that you had of like...
Yeah, wrap her up, boys. Yep.
The middle hour of the Foo Fighters show, I was like, okay, we can do without every member of this band having their own song to cover.
Yep.
I'm like, I can do without Pat Smear doing a fucking cover.
Yep.
Like, I love Pat Smear, but like...
Yep.
I can do without him singing a song. Like, it's all good.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those things where what is the perfect length of a headline?
Yeah.
Well, so that's a sliding scale, though, depending on the size of the venue.
Yes. So here's the things, the main issues I had with the Chili Peppers set, right? They came out of the gates hot. Bang, bang, bang. 3 bangers. Like, started around the world, you know, did like Scar Tissue and something else. Like, all off Californication, I think.
Yeah.
All 3. Then they literally do, like, I think we established today one of them wasn't, it was an old one, but it was an obscure one off Stadium Arcadium.
Yeah.
And there's like 8 in a row.
Yeah. New songs.
New or ones that the crowd definitely didn't recognise. Because, and I had this bird's eye view on it where, like, the crowd just dead still. And, like, the response, the cheers and whatever after each song is purely Pavlovian. It was like, oh, song's done. We'd better cheer and clap. Because during the song, no response. Like, it was not connecting in the slightest. Then boom, they played an oldie and it like went off again. And like literally all the people around me in the stands, they stood up when it was a song they recognised. So you could literally see the reaction when a song that people gave a shit about came on.
Just a binary reaction. It's just like we're on or we're off. We're not like warm to it the whole time.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, we don't know this song, so we're just gonna go into power saving mode.
Yes. That was, and I think everyone was expecting that, like, oh, they'll do 2 or 3.
Yeah.
8.
Yeah.
And then they did 1. I can't remember what song it was they did. Played 1. 3 more. So there's 11 songs there out of that set that I would say, like, no one knew.
Yeah.
And then they ended on one that everyone knew. And they were like, cheers. And I was like, and I'm at the point where I'm
do an encore?
Yes. Oh. But I'm like, why are we doing this in 2023? Like,
yeah.
Why are we doing this fake walk? I get it.
Yeah.
You need a drink of water. Get some people to bring on some beers and have a chat for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, and
that actually should be the new standard for encores.
Yeah.
It should be like, hey, look, guys, we're just going to have a stop and a chat for a minute, you know, like, let talk to the crowd. We're going to have a beer or whatever like that and, you know, do a bit of a fuck around. And dude, like, essentially, I know it's hard with gigs, especially something that big, but have some sort of like crowd work thing apart from just walking off and walking back on.
Yeah. I'm so done with the encore these days. And so then they came back out and did Other Side, Soul to Squeeze, and
By the Way.
Yep. And then I thought they were going to do a second walk-off and come back on for another encore.
Because you're like, where's the rest of the songs?
Well, yeah, they just did 3 more. And I was like, they're not doing a second encore. That's unheard of. No, they were done.
That was it.
And that was 15 minutes early.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, okay. No Under the Bridge?
Yeah.
No Under the Bridge.
Yeah.
Literally their biggest song by a large margin on Spotify.
And once again, like Old Mate, Down on the Barrier, $530.
Yeah.
Like, I understand that you can't expect a band to play your favourite song every time.
Totally.
But when it's literally their biggest hit they ever had.
Yeah. It was a bit much. And then the other thing that was the biggest issue for me is, and I get it, you're seeing the Chili Peppers and they're pretty famous for their like jazzy jams they do. But like these were like song length jams they're doing. They're doing like 3 to 5 minute jams.
Right.
In between songs that, you know, you probably could have
put a song that people know.
Put a song in it, yeah. And like I get it, but also like the thing that I had the realization about was like, if say you were seeing a covers band at the pub and they decided, oh, we're going to do a bit of a medley of Chili Peppers songs, and in between each one they jammed for 5 minutes, you'd find that the most annoying fucking thing on the planet. You'd be like, play the songs, fuck.
Yeah.
But we give these guys a pass. And look, Chad Smith, he's a jazz drummer, he's great, Flea, rips, whatever. But like, we get it. I don't need 5 sessions in that set where it's just them ripping it out.
I appreciate, one of my favourite things to see on a festival poster or like on a tour poster or whatever is band plays album in full.
Yeah.
Right? Because either it was an album that was big enough that usually find it with heavier bands, because you'll find a band like Red Hot Chili Peppers, for example. Yeah, Californication was a huge album.
Yeah.
But like, I think a lot of people, most casual fans, are only there for singles and shit, right? Whereas you'll find with like smaller, heavier bands, if you see a band that you grew up loving when you're a teenager and they go, we're playing this album in full, you're like, yeah, fuck, I'll be there. But also, you kind of know what you're in for. If there was a band
in the Ambulance thrice.
Exactly. Yeah. Like Between the Buried and Me has done it for a few of their albums now because they they know that their fan
dedicated
base.
Ixnay and the Hombre
are there for
Offspring
albums.
did that at Good Things the first time around. Yeah.
Yep. And so
wait, did they do Ixnay and the Hombre or Smash? It was Smash, wasn't it?
Must have been. I didn't see that whole set. I only saw there was so much on that day. Holy fuck. But yeah. So anyway, I'm the kind of guy, I know that you're like this with movies, right? You'll watch trailers and then you'll watch spoilers.
I wanted to get into this tonight.
And you'll watch all the background, and all of a sudden you go to see this movie and you already know how it ends. You know all the behind the scenes. You know when they accidentally left a coffee cup in the back or whatever. You know all the shit. And you go in and you're watching a movie that you have basically read like a book before you got to there.
I did that. I went to a movie cold the other day.
Yeah, you did.
I did.
Yeah, and did
Babylon.
that just blow you away?
It did.
Yeah, isn't that a nice feeling?
Yeah.
Well, it's not
going to stop me doing that for like franchise stuff that I like.
Well, but
I really enjoyed seeing Babylon cold.
Well, especially with a movie like that, I don't know what that thing's about at all. I just know the trailer looked rad, and they didn't fuck the story with the trailer.
Yeah.
So
and you couldn't.
Yeah.
From the movie it is, you just couldn't.
Yeah, it's just one of those ones where
it's one you just had to show vibe.
Yeah, and that's probably why they started to go back to trailers where, well, some of those new movies that come out, you see a trailer and you go, oh, they didn't fuck the plot in the trailer. It's because the movies are getting so adventurous because they're like, what do we do? Like, how do we, like Everything Everywhere All at Once? I haven't seen that yet.
I had to turn it off. It's too much.
Oh, just like over the top?
Well, no. I enjoyed it, but it was like, it's a sensory overload.
Was it Everything Everywhere?
Yes.
All at once?
Yeah.
Because I've seen trailers for that movie and I have no idea what it's about. And I'm like, that's great. But then I know
the
hour
now
or so
of it I have seen. I still can't tell you what it's about.
Well, the reason I bring that up is that what I've been doing recently with gigs is, you can go to like setlist.fm or whatever and you can see what a band's currently touring.
Yeah.
So when I know that a band's coming and I want to know okay, Evergreen Terrace, my band that I joined, we
Strange Fiction
at Strange Fiction I think. I don't know what the tag is.
Good plug, Doug.
That's us. So we opened for Evergreen Terrace the other day, and I was like, fuck yeah. I'm so excited because I love this band growing up.
The guitarist told you had a 6 set.
He told me that we played a 6 set.
Doug
he goes,
can die happy now.
Yeah, well, he said, you guys have got some really good riffs. And I was like, thank you so much.
Damn.
Thank you so much.
I didn't write them.
I didn't write them. Go and tell the vocalist. I'm pretty sure he wrote all those songs.
You played them sick butt, Doug.
Yeah, mate, I played the fuck out of those riffs. But so that band, loved that band growing up, listened to them heaps growing up, hadn't listened to them for a while, and I went, I
should re-familiarise.
Revisit it. But then I was just like, well, I like to be able to see a band now, and like, if I haven't seen them before, I haven't seen them for ages, I want to be able to sing along. And I'm like, well, there's been new stuff since I listened to it.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that I'm not standing like the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I'm not standing there bored for 4 songs because I don't fucking know what's going on. Right?
Yeah.
So I've taken to going and finding one of their most recent set lists
and then make a playlist out of it.
And make a Spotify playlist out of it. Listen to it in the car, familiarise myself with it, which I think is very ADHD of me to do. And then,
congratulations on your diagnosis.
On my diagnosis, yeah, I am 100%
medicated.
I have a good reason now for being who I've always been.
Yes. Doug is medicated.
But so, yeah, for me, it makes a big difference. And a Shikari, I knew that I was 2-3 albums behind. Yeah, it's good.
I love it.
Dude,
I listened to it on the way over.
So I went through and I listened to all of their albums, all their new stuff over the 2 or 3 months before I went to go and see them play live. But then I found out what setlist they were touring with, and I made a Spotify playlist and listened to that like an album for a few weeks. Then when I went to the show, it was like I was watching an album playthrough. And the experience was so much better. Yeah, there was still spontaneous stuff. They added an extra song in here, in there. They
probably have that as a variable.
The spectacle of what they do on stage.
Yeah.
I didn't know every single thing that was going to happen.
Yeah.
But I got to experience that to the fullest. Like I wrung every bit of like enjoyment I could out of that, because so many bands that I used to like, you go along and you see them and you go, oh, I'm 2 albums behind. They're not in that cycle anymore. They want to play their new shit. And so I'm just going to stand here being like not bored, but like just kind of feel left out.
Not as connected. So I am going to test your theory on this because I have tickets to see Seosin.
Yes.
Or the age-old debate, how do you say Seosin? Apparently, the official way to say it is Seosin.
Seosin, yeah. Disagree.
They themselves say it's Seosin.
Yeah, but the guy who invented GIFs says it's pronounced GIF. And he's categorically fucking wrong.
Yeah, for real. For real.
Like, it doesn't
feels like itchy on my brain. Yeah, it's fucked. So I'm going to go see Seosin, right? And I can't get past like Seosin.
It's Seosin.
Yeah. Anyway,
how do you say the Red Hot Chili Peppers lead singer's last name?
Kiedis.
Kiedis? Yeah. See, I hear people say it differently all the time. I think it's Kiedis, but I've heard like Kiedis, and I've heard like Kiedis and stuff, and just all
I am going to go and look at their recent set lists, and I'm going to make a playlist.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, I'm going to run that theory.
I'm actually going to do the same thing, because same thing.
Do you have tickets?
Yeah, I'm going.
Oh, hell yeah!
Brady and I
had no
probably
idea.
be editing the audio for this. Brady's coming down for it, and we're going to Seosin.
Yes.
We're also going to Sleep Token as well.
Oh, God.
So
the next couple of months is going to be so good.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm going to do that. That sounds great. But yeah, no, look, at the end of the day, you know, there's like 25, 30,000 or so people that were at that show last night. Most of them would have had a cracking time.
Yeah.
The only thing that's bothered me today is there's all these reviews that say it was like incredible and this and that. And
it was shit hot,
And it just wasn't. Like Anthony Kiedis did not perform well. He wasn't firing.
Well, through the grapevine, it sounds like out back, like everyone was sort of fussing around going like, fuck, is this show even going to happen? Because he's kind of off it.
Yeah. So,
ex-drug addict. You know, he's obviously been through some shit.
Then you got John Frusciante back in the band. There's another last name that people probably have debate about as well. But
Frusciante, I hear a lot.
Oh, Frusciante, righto. Yeah, no, look, I don't know. You know, he's back in the band, and, you know, they've given him, what's that, his third, fourth, fifth chance? Because obviously he's been replaced before.
Yeah.
I think Dave Navarro and Josh Klinghoffer are, you know, both in that club.
And he's just one of those dirty exes that just comes in and he just knows he can. He's the Mr. Big, the like Sex in the City. He's like big. You go, I know you're bad for me, but like I just can't resist you. And then they get all these like...
There's a cultural reference that you'd never think to equate the two.
And they get all these like stable relationships with these other guitarists that fucking rule and like...
Yeah, Josh Klinghoffer served them so well.
Yeah, and then and John just goes, I think I want to be back in the band. And they go, okay, yeah, sure.
You're out, son.
Yeah.
This is what I don't get, right? Why wouldn't you just keep Josh Klinghoffer and have a two-guitar
band?
Do
the Pat Smear thing where you add... Yeah.
Can you imagine how much better band Red Hot Chili Peppers would be with two guitarists?
Yeah. And a little more consistent as well.
That's
Yeah.
It's a real head scratcher for me.
I don't know how far in we are into this thing.
I'm having fun.
I didn't set a clock, but movie shit.
Yeah, well, I mean, I saw Babylon, and that was So because, like I was saying before, I'm like child free and footloose and fancy free. I never look at like how long movies go for. I never look at like how many minutes it goes for because I haven't got anything on.
Yeah.
So whatever. But I took my girlfriend Jess along to see the movie, and I sent her a screen capture of like, here's the times today. Which session do you want to go to? And she was like, oh, the 12:30 one. Cool. And she went, yeah, it's 109 minutes. Rad. That'll be great. And I was like, cool. What I didn't realize that she was looking above, and so it was like the runtime for the movie above it because I'd cropped the screenshot. Right. And she was like, yeah, 109 minutes. That's a nice quick movie. That'll be no worries. It's less than 2 hours. Unreal. Anyway, it's a 3-hour movie. She's like, oh, that's good. 109 minutes. It won't be Titanic. No, it's literally 3 hours. And yeah, we went in at 12:30 and got out at 10 to 4. But Jess hasn't been to the cinema in 4 years.
Yeah, right.
COVID and what have you. And, you know, she's a mother. Yeah. So she's got a 4-year-old, so she hasn't been to the cinema for that long.
Yeah.
And then we sat, like, I subjected her to this really intense 3-hour long movie. And it's really, really full on. In the first 5 minutes alone, a dude gets, like, absolutely shat on by an elephant, and then like a dude gets pissed on. A woman urinates on a guy. Like in the first 5 minutes.
What's it? The
old golden shower.
The old brass against fucking. Yeah.
Oh, great reference.
It's a callback.
That's a great.
Yeah. Yeah, see, it's funny you say that, long movies, right? So I went the other day to see the second Avatar movie.
Oh, God.
Sequel.
Okay.
Yeah. And so same thing. I actually had that morning, it was like a Saturday, and I knew that I was coming to hang out with you afterwards, right?
That's right, yes.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay, I know how long this movie is. It's going to like be not difficult to fit it in.
It's 4 hours, correct?
Oh, no. It's like 3 hours, 10 minutes or something like that. But then obviously, like, you know, there's the getting there before and leaving after. Yeah. You know, like it's most of the fucking day.
It's a commitment.
It's a huge commitment. And I was like, I want to go and see this because even though I couldn't give a flying fuck about the Avatar world, I'm like, I've got to go and see the CGI. Like, he's been working on this for like 13 years. Yeah. You know, not even out of respect for James Cameron, just out of like interest. I'm like, what does 13 years of working on one movie actually look like? And turns out pretty good.
Good. Like
the movie.
Walk me through it. Yeah.
Well, so my review of it was along the lines of, you for you to make the money back on a movie that you spend 13 years making and that you need $2 billion
that was a break-even point,
to
right?
break even on,
Yeah.
you need to make the plot and the dialogue so painfully simple and paper thin.
Yeah.
Because you need
It's
to
gotta be
appeal
so
to
broad,
the broadest audience.
Yeah.
You've got to appeal to like people's dogs. And so, yeah, like the story and the dialogue was not terrible, but it's just so inconsequential.
Right.
And like, I wouldn't even say that there's spoilers for that movie in the sense that like you could guess the second you walk in what's going to happen, especially when there's so many sequels coming. But what I will say is there are about 5 times in the 3D showing of that in the city. So the biggest screen there is in town, and with the 3D glasses on.
IMAX.
Where's the IMAX?
South Bank.
Is that actually IMAX?
Yeah.
Okay, biggest non-IMAX
Yeah,
screen.
there you
then.
go.
But I mean, like, you know, there's other good cinemas around town, more comfortable cinemas as well.
Yeah.
But that one had like the biggest screen with the 3D.
Yeah.
And to sit there and watch that, there are about 5 times where my brain was like, oh, this is real.
You're in that world.
Yeah. These blue people that are in this water
I'm in it.
on top of this, you know, like alien whale thing and stuff like that. Like all those textures, the light, the depth, the everything. I'm like, this is a real thing that's happening.
That's just filmed.
You know, you know that it's not, but your brain, that's the thing with the Uncanny Valley. It's not whether it's like, you've got to choose to give yourself over to it in the first place. You've got to choose to suspend your disbelief. It's all obviously computer generated. It's all obviously not real stuff. But after like 2.5 hours of sitting there watching these blue people in fucking 3D, you get to the point where there'll be some sort of effect in the water where it doesn't look like CGI water. It looks like real water lapping over somebody. You know, like everything that was on the waterline. Yeah. So if you're watching essentially the equivalent of like if the camera was on a surfboard next to the people.
Yeah.
If you're that close to the water in that kind of shot and there's a couple people and they're like, you know, they're like on the side of this whale and so they're partially submerged, so is it. There's a bit of glistening and water over them. There's depth in the background and other things around. Your brain just goes, oh, I'm in the water next to these people and this is happening. And
really?
It's real strange, man. Like I wanted to go and watch that movie again purely because I was like, it kind of surprised me how good it was. Just the effects.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other times, the frame rate was abhorrent and...
Yeah, because it's variable, right?
Variable frame rate, but you would think it would just be for the action scenes that they'd pump the frame rate up, but it's not that simple. There's scenes where they're just talking where the frame rate's still jacked up. It's almost like they forgot and left it up and then they didn't put it back down and it's very disorienting.
Because the movie that I saw in 3D at the cinema it was 60 frames. The whole film was the first Hobbit movie.
Yeah.
And I didn't like it.
Yep.
It was too real.
Yeah, there's something
I didn't believe it.
Yeah.
I didn't believe it.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like seeing a movie anymore. Felt like watching a cutscene from a computer game.
That's exactly what the whole thing of Avatar felt like. It felt like a AAA cutscene for like 3 hours. Yeah. Occasionally, and it was only because of the water. Like all the stuff where they're in the air or they're on land and they're you know interacting with stuff. Like all that stuff was like you know it was well done, but it felt like video game cutscene. But it was specifically the stuff on the waterline. Underwater, they did a really good job of the effects because they actually swam with mocap suits on. They worked out how to do all that shit. They had like a detached camera lens with a wiring harness that goes back to the actual camera body.
You're kidding.
Yeah, so they developed the technology to shoot mocap underwater for this movie. What? That's why it took so long. That's why it needs so much money. The money wasn't the production budget of just shooting a movie.
That's
the money
insane.
was, we developed new technology with our budget.
And yeah, I got to give him that because, like, you know, the best. These are those moments where film evolves because you know Star Wars did that back in the day, 77. They rather than just be like, oh, we can't make this film because it just doesn't exist. Like Lucas just went, all right, cool, we're gonna create a company called Industrial Light and Magic, and we'll just make and patent all of these things.
Yeah.
And we'll be a business alongside, and, you know, people will come to Skywalker Sound.
And whatever happened to ILM?
Yeah. Exactly, right? They're like the standard.
Yeah.
So, like, I got to give them that. Like, that's... Like they give a fuck what I think. But anyway.
Mocap swimming as well. I didn't realize, but like if you ever see someone that's like, you know, they've motion captured someone swimming, you know, obviously it's just them on a soundstage. They're on a trolley or something that's like green, and then they're pretending to swim and move through the water. But it only works for like short stints of, you know, like a scene where they cut a lot.
I actually saw a thing today for how they did Namor in Wakanda Forever. Like, it's underwater, obviously, and like he's just on. There's a scene where he comes in and he like lands and sits down on his throne, and then he does this. They do this sort of hand signal that looks like a shell.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the Wakanda Forever thing, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's done out of water. And it's mostly acting. So they wire him, you know, in, and they lower him down.
Yeah.
And then he sits very slowly, and like he's moving as though there's this resistance against the water.
Yeah.
And it's all in his performance. And then they CGI his hair and the feathers on his, you know, thing moving about, stuff like that. So, you know, that's your other way. And I imagine that's the way Aquaman was done as well.
That's the catch, though, with that is because mocap, right? If that's actually someone was in a suit, I haven't seen the movie.
No, he's virtually just got like a pair of swimming trunks on and like a headdress.
Well, that would be the difference, I guess, is with this mocap, because it's Avatar, right? Everything, like there is not, there are some real people in the movie. Like there's a couple of like, you know who's in it? Jermaine from Flight of the Conchords.
What?
With an American accent, and then an Australian actor who I've seen before, I couldn't name him, but he's like an older bloke who plays like the most Australian guy next to Jermaine Clements, who for some reason they've made have a American accent instead of just keeping his own accent. Doesn't make any sense. Yeah, and it's really upsetting.
At this point, we're all humans in space. Like, doesn't matter what accent they've got.
Yeah, it's just kind of very strange. But yeah, the difference being everything is digitally replaced. And so all of the mocap that they're doing is to be completely replaced, whereas that would be different because he's still, unless they actually film that guy in the tank, that he would still have to pretend to swim.
Yes.
So, but yeah, anyway, I actually would rate if you're listening to this and it's still in the movies, you can go see it in, whenever someone's listening to this, I would go see it in 3D. Absolutely worth it. Even though the movie itself is kind of boring as batshit, there's about a half an hour of like when they first move to like the water tribe and they're learning to like, you know, use their tails to swim better and everything. Because the water tribe are actually, they've got like
they've evolved a little bit.
Like an eel sort of shaped tail. Instead of like a
because they've evolved differently because they've adapted.
They've got broad forearms, kind of like fins, like turtle fins and stuff. Yeah.
Wow.
And so they're teaching.
I actually thought that stuff out.
The sort of, you know, rainforest version of the avatars, of the, what do you call it?
Na'vi, yeah.
They're teaching them how to swim and stuff, but then they're also introducing you to like all the different like you know, their versions of the rainforest, like the ones that fly, you know, let's just call them horses, right? Yeah. The rainforest have flying horses.
Yes.
And then there's swimming / flying horses for, And so they're learning all that shit. And so there's a half an hour where you're getting introduced
like a training sequence
to all these different, like, characters. You're getting introduced to the environment. You're getting introduced to all the, like, the marine life and everything. Right. And it is just half an hour of ocean porn. Essentially, it was James Cameron doing what he did with the first Avatar, where they wanted to cut out a bunch of flying scene. There was like they wanted to cut out 8 minutes worth of flying scene, and they went, "This is, you know, we don't need this. It doesn't drive the plot forward." And you know, and he goes, "Well, I want to keep it." They go, "Why do you want to keep it?" And he goes, "Because it's beautiful, and we put all this work into this CGI. Don't you just want to hang out in this for like an extra few minutes with all this plot we've got to get through?" But there's all this stuff.
Fern Gully.
Yeah, all these action scenes. Yeah, exactly.
Last of the Mohicans.
But, you know, we've got this amazing flying scene. Why don't we make it longer? And he's pushed that again.
Yeah, with the swimming stuff.
The ocean stuff, yeah. To the point where the friend that I went with, who I won't name, but the friend that I went with, she, not that she'd be embarrassed about it anyway, but there was a scene where there's a character that's basically like a big whale that, you know, they can speak with and everything. And yeah, like there's a scene where one of its kind dies.
Okay.
And it was enough to make her cry. Because how real and everything it all felt, and the way it was like a hunting scene with hunting one of these things with harpoons and stuff. Right. And it was actually pretty emotional in the sense that, like, because that's what real whaling must be like.
Yeah.
Right. And she's like really like did a marine biology degree and everything.
Incredible.
And just like was actually, you don't connect with all the character stuff going on because you know it's all just acting. But with that, it was actually like, oh, this is a pretty accurate depiction of what whaling would be like, you know, if we took it to outer space.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah. It was really upsetting, actually.
Man, like, you've made me feel a little bit of like, fuck, maybe I should see it. Because, like, up to now, zero fucks.
Yeah. So, same. It was just the CGI that I wanted to go see. Yeah. I wanted to be able to see it in 3D because I know that if I watch it on a TV at home, I'll give no fucks about it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, you've semi excited me for that, where there was absolutely none prior. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else we got?
Man, I have been getting into The Last of Us.
Yeah, right.
Have you given that a run yet?
No, I haven't. I actually haven't played any of the games either, so I don't know jack shit about it.
Neither. You don't need to.
Pedro Pascal.
Yeah, what a guy.
Is just the king of all television at the moment.
Agreed. So before we get on to that, I'll just quickly duck back into Avatar world.
Yeah.
I was watching some TikToks the other day, and an interview with Sam Worthington came on. He was on, I think it was Jimmy Fallon.
Just the luckiest son of a bitch in the world, because that guy has zero talent, and he has been attached to the biggest fucking Well, no, not zero talent, but what I mean is, like, I think if it weren't for Avatar,
I'm not certain he'd still be.
He would have fallen off the radar completely.
Yeah. But what I did see in this interview was, I don't know if you remember, but for the longest time, and if you went back and looked at some of our old episodes, you'd see I'm wearing a wristband that is blue, pink, and purple.
Yep.
And like it's a bisexual wristband.
Yeah.
And I went, he's wearing literally the same wristband that I've got.
Right. And
I went, what the fuck? And apparently he came out in 2019. Sam Worthington is bi.
Shit.
I had no idea. I was like, there you go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, yeah, it's not something that would have come up in tabloids or anything like that, because, like, no one's talking about Sam Worthington.
Yeah. Again, sorry, mate. Sucks to kind of shit on an Australian. We do have a tall poppy syndrome. We do here.
Yeah, a little bit. But also, it's kind of just the fact that I've seen some of the other movies that he made and everything, and I was just like, it just kind of feels like he could be like a fourth Hemsworth.
Yeah, like, let's go back to the Baldwins. You know, like, by the time you're down at Billy.
Yeah, he's a Billy Baldwin for sure.
He's Billy, for sure.
Yeah, except if Billy Baldwin was like, I don't know, Samuel L. Jackson in Die Hard 3 or something, you know what I mean? Like, if he just managed to get, like, some sort of, like, or he was Vincent Vega in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
You know, you'd be like, okay, well, we're going to remember Billy Baldwin, even if that's the only thing he ever did.
Yeah. Fucking Billy Baldwin. Poor guy. Yeah. But, Last of Us. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. He's the king of TV at the moment. He's Mando. He's Joel, Last of Us.
He was in Narcos.
Yeah.
He's also been in, like, he's touched almost every big movie franchise, like, or at least been with, like, not every, like, he was in Wonder Woman.
He was in Game of Thrones.
Oh
my God, yeah, he's been a DC guy.
He was in Narcos. I don't think he's been in Marvel yet, but that's probably coming.
That's on the cards. If you think about it, he's in the Disney ecosystem.
Yeah, but he was also the villain in The Kingsman.
Oh God, there's two films I've not bothered with.
Yeah,
I watched the first bit of the first one. Why are people talking about this? This fucking sucks.
Yeah, I mean, if you're coming from like a James Bond kind of background and stuff like that, I get that. But they're good fun. I think that they're good.
It's
like
hokey as shit.
Yeah, but it's hyper shit. You know what I mean? It's hot. Like, yeah, you gotta like it for what it is. I don't mind though. The second one was a bit. Yeah, it's a bit.
I've seen scenes from that where there's the American equivalent, and it's like him and Channing Tatum. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, it's a bit.
What the fuck
bit
is
strange.
this?
But also, Pedro Pascal has been in a few of those like sort of Netflix movies and stuff like that with like big actors. Like he was in Triple Frontier, I think, with Ben Affleck and Oscar Isaac, and so it was like a movie where like some.
God damn! Why haven't I seen that movie?
Ex-army guys go over to somewhere in South America because there's like a drug war. And they know they can.
I have seen that. What am I talking about?
Yeah. So they like infiltrate like his compound. They steal all of his cash.
I
and
have
try
seen
to
that
get it
movie
out by helicopter.
I forgot that I saw it.
Yeah,
that
was
excellent.
That was like, I think, I can't remember who the fourth guy was. Maybe, was it John Bernthal maybe? There was definitely like a fourth, but like four big fucking
sick,
actors.
Though, yeah.
Yeah.
I do remember what, wow.
Yep. He was in the new Nicolas Cage, sorry, I'm just hijacking it, but he was in the new Nicolas Cage movie, like impossible weight of
unbearable weight of
talent
or something.
I can't remember
massive
the name.
Talent.
Yeah, unbearable weight of massive talent. He was the
like
guy,
the ultimate fan, right?
Yeah, the ultimate fan of Nicolas. Yeah, he's been in some great shit, man. I love Pedro.
Yeah, he's. I mean, he's making the most of a moment he's having.
Yeah.
Because you
yeah,
you never know when it's going to end.
Go
so
ahead and
he's
get it, son.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh my god, and like. To get to be Mando and not have to, like, he's only in the suit 30% of the time.
I was going to say,
when
like,
you
what's
see
the
Mando,
actual...
he bugger all of it is him.
That's so weird.
He just does 30% of the actual physical acting, mostly voice capture, and then he's got two other stunt doubles. Because he never has to take the helmet off.
Yeah, so I suppose the only time that they'd really have him in the suit was when it's like dialogue scenes where he's got to like kind of act the body language.
Yeah,
but I mean,
but even so,
so slight though the acting that you can actually do.
Yeah. And then the actual scenes where he has to take the helmet off.
Yeah,
and some of them they don't even show. They just show like him sitting, cut off here, and then you see him like put the helmet down. Still doesn't even have to be just a
dream job.
Dream job indeed, and to be the face of it and just get paid the check to go along with it.
Also, your face isn't. I mean, he's already famous. His face is everywhere anyway. But I mean, like for your face to not have to be forever associated with that character, as in like when who is it? Wasn't Tom Hanks. There was someone I was listening to an interview with the other day where there's still like a movie that they did in the 90s or whatever that was like a one-off movie, not even a franchise, and they get yelled at for a quote from that movie all the time because they're the face of that thing, right? Whereas no one's going to yell out for a Mando quote to Pedro Pascal because like if you're a hyper fan, you know it's him, but most people that might just be watching that show.
People yell, "This is the way" at him?
Not as much as like if you like had a particular like hairstyle or something, so your face and your head was on the poster and people remember you being that person,
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
true. I mean, Grogu probably takes the heat there.
Yeah, I'm sure he cops it in public all the time. Yeah.
But anyway, but yeah. So Last of Us. I won't spoil anything for you because, like, have you got binge? Have you got?
I don't think so. Not at the moment. I got too many fucking things.
Anyway, so it's on there.
Remember pay TV and how shit pay TV was? That you had to pay like $100 a month to get all these different channels, and now we're just doing it piecemeal. Yeah.
At least you can opt out piecemeal month on month.
It's a much better, less prescriptive service, but also it's like the irony is not lost on me.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, so before I came over here, I started watching the episode that dropped this afternoon.
Right.
And so I'm only about 25 minutes into this episode, but Nick Offerman turns up.
Oh, I heard that he was in it.
As like, it's like a side story that happens. Like, it sort of like, it starts out with Pedro and the young girl, and they're on their journey. They're walking through the woods and whatever, and they start talking about like how the whole thing started and what have you, and then it gets to the point where it's basically starts telling this sort of side story of like when it all went down for this one guy.
Yeah.
Living in this little tiny town, and he hides in his little bunker until all of the like feds and everyone have taken everyone away, and he's in this little town, and he's like, cool, they're all gone, and he like starts to just set up like his life in that little town that's been abandoned, and
Right.
he's got his little bunker of all of his guns and ammo and his food, and and he goes and steals one of his mate's boats, and he's like he's going all around town, and like he's got his little farm set up. He like goes and takes chooks and gets set up for the zombie apocalypse, basically.
That sounds like a Nick Offerman character for sure.
Yeah.
Just like
and it also like the montage of him getting all of his stuff together. Like he goes to the gas plant and makes sure the gas is turned on. So there's access. He's got like a gas cooker in his home to make dinner.
Because it's natural gas, right? So it'll just be constantly running. Yeah.
And it's all set to this like blues song, and he's just like driving his truck and like smashing through fences, and like he's just having a ball with this character. And I couldn't tell you whether this character is going to last it past this episode or not, because I haven't seen the end yet. But it's this is great, and he's got all these traps set up for all the zombies and stuff.
Yeah,
and he's got like CCTV all around the compound where his house is, and like he's got like you get like a little alarm. He's sitting there eating a steak, and he goes, he looks up, he like puts his TV on. He's like, oh yeah, here we go. Yeah. There's like a walker, like a zombie coming up, and it like trips on a tripwire, and a shotgun shoots it through the head. He's like, ha, ha, never gets old.
That is straight up Nick Offerman.
Yeah. That was great.
I didn't really get through Parks and Rec like in its entirety, and I think I should probably go back and try, because I got through all The Office, and the first season or two of that took me a while to get into it, like to be like, I know this is gonna get good because I've seen clips that I really like.
So I'm not there yet, so I've got to get good at some point.
Get enamored with it. I've got to let myself like get into it. But with Parks and Rec, like the whole Ron Swanson thing is just right up my alley. It's just my favorite part. All the other characters I could kind of care less about, but like all that Ron stuff just vibrates with me. So
I haven't watched all the Parks and Rec either, but there's that one scene that where he's like in the restaurant, and he's speaking to a waiter, and he's like, and give me all the eggs you got.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, no, like, yes, sir. Yeah. He starts walking away, and he's like, hold on. He's like, I'm worried what you heard was, give me a lot of eggs.
What I said
was, give me all the eggs.
I want all the eggs you've got. The other one was when he's out in the park, and he's like, I don't know, he's like cooking something. He's got a grill or something in the middle of nowhere, or setting a fire maybe, whatever it is. But he's doing something, and the park ranger comes up to him and he goes, what are you doing? And he goes, oh, I've got a permit. He goes, oh, really? Let me see that. And he pulled it out, and it's just a piece of paper that says, I can do whatever I want. That's the energy I like to come out live with. Yeah.
Oh, man. That's
actually,
so funny.
We've got a timer on here, haven't we? Oh, sweet. We're good.
We're good?
We're about it. Yeah. We're about an hour. So.
Love it. Jeez. Haven't even hit our hour 20 sweet spot yet.
No, we still can.
Yeah.
So yeah,
how's your 2023 going for you? Like we're hitting the end of the month. Like we're not even into February yet.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy. I got my desk. Desk goes up.
Oh shit.
Desk goes down. I work from home now. So I have sort of set up this little like lair for myself where I can do everything I want to do. I can work. I can like play music. I can just, plan shit out for this kind of stuff. I've got plans for 2023, and I've set myself up this nice little space for that. And so I don't know what's going on out there because I'm in here. So
yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, it's much the same. Like I'm working from home full time now as well, and like that's a real interesting thing for me because as an extrovert, like I really value having people around, and so what I find it makes me more social at night and on the weekends.
Yeah.
Whereas like if I'm working in an office and that sort of stuff, I kind of get my fill of people when I'm in that environment. So I tend to not go out and do as much in those situations because I kind of get that from going to work at that point. So
funny you say that too, because at the moment, so my wife's on uni holidays.
Yep.
And so she's just home all the time.
It's good for some.
And yeah, that's it. Yeah, fucking weeks and weeks off. But so it's good at the moment because when I knock off for lunch or I go out to get a drink or whatever like that, it's kind of like being in an office, as in there's just someone there I can just say something to and like have a quick chat with. Oh, we have lunch together or like whatever, and just there's something going on in the house.
Careful in like your interactions with her at lunchtime, mate. You might find yourself in a sexual harassment case in the workplace, you know?
Righto, mate. Leave it out, mate. But I mean, like, there is someone else in the building.
Yeah.
And
there is a presence.
And it wasn't like that when she was at uni, and I was okay with that. I'd gotten used to that. But now I've gotten used to there's someone in the building. And then when she goes back to uni, I do wonder whether I'll start to be a little bit like, oh, I'll come out for lunch and it's just me. And I'm like, what do I do now? Like, So I can definitely vibe with that.
Yeah. We should probably also state, like, she's not out there making you sandwiches for lunch. You're not, like, expecting that she's making you lunch.
No, I just mean, like, there's, like, you come out of the room that you're in on your own, and when goes back to uni, I'll come out of the room. I'm like, oh, okay, sweet. I'm done in here on my own. And I go out, and I'm still on my own. So,
yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, totally.
Definitely will want to get out a bit more. So, and you know what? It's weird because I've kind of set up the perfect thing that I could have been doing during the pandemic now. The job that I have now and the space that I've got.
This would have been epic.
Would have been the perfect pandemic bloody bunker. But
100%.
So,
but this past weekend just gone has been like the biggest 4 days so from the 26th last week through to Sunday just gone, so yesterday the 30th, the 29th.
You and the nephew just tearing up town.
Yeah, it was pretty nuts. We didn't have it was a pretty low key 26th because it should be. But then from Friday I had to work Friday, but then we went to see a 35mm film print of The Dark Knight on Friday night, which was sick. Like, so he's 19. That movie came out in 2008, and he was 5.
So he's never seen it on the big screen.
Never seen it on the big screen, and it was one screening on that night
that he happened to be
here, and I was like, dude, it's like they bunged it on for you.
Yeah.
So we went to see that. It was at New Farm Cinemas, and that was sick because it was film too. It wasn't a digital print.
Yeah, right.
So like, not only was it this like super widescreen version, it was also like it was film. So
did he dig it? Like, did he?
He did. He wasn't sure what to make of it to begin with because it was at New Farm Cinemas. So it's New Farm Cinemas. It's an independent chain. It's not like a Birch Carlin or Event or whatever they are now. It's not a Hoyts.
Wasn't a huge screen.
It's not a huge screen, but it's also like it's a bit old school. The cinema as well. Like it's not purpose built. It was a cinema. It got renovated. It still looks like an old cinema.
Yeah,
but it's been done up, right?
Is it a Palace Cinema?
No,
Palace Theatre?
No, it belongs to.
I've been to that one.
It's the same people who run the Red Hill Cinema, Yatla, Drive-In, and like a couple of other, and that the one on Elizabeth Street in the city as well.
Oh, really?
Princess, I think, something like that.
Another one.
And so there's like a real nostalgia vibe to them. They're like obviously the Drive-In has that a bit of an old school vibe, and the one in the cinema and the one in the city in Elizabeth Street has like a real sort of like 1920s sort of vibe to it. This one is a bit retro. It's sort of like they renoed it to look sort of like the 60s when it was operating back in the day when the tram ran past it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's a bit old school looking.
Yeah.
There's a lot of they've got a lot of like really great vintage posters hanging up in there. There's one for Roger Moore's Live and Let Die, and there's an original Scarface poster in there, and like an original Jaws poster, stuff like that, right? And so it was, and they're big on that nostalgia of the popcorn buckets look old, and stuff like that. They really play it up, And so he was sort of like, I really don't know what to make of this, And he's like, oh, the screen's a bit small. I was like, dude, just chill. Because I was like, you could tell that the black curtains were going to get pulled back.
Yeah.
But they had brought it in to play the aspect ratio of the trailers and stuff.
Yeah, yep.
And I was like, just chill, man. Like, it'll get good. Just, just wait. Like, stop being so, And no, it was incredible to see, man, on the big screen. And like, there's just like there's things that I just never noticed because I've watched it so many times, but only ever on a TV screen. And I saw it on IMAX when it first came out.
Yeah, right.
But then, like, only ever on a TV since, right? And like, there's just little subtleties in like people's faces and stuff that you miss on a little screen.
Yeah.
So like, there's a moment where a character like betrays. It's when Rachel gets kidnapped, and it's Ramirez, one of the cops. She puts Rachel in the car, and then as the car takes off, it lingers just that little too long on Ramirez's face.
Right.
And she looks guilty. And I never noticed that before. And you're like, oh, right. Yeah. She's the reason why Rachel gets kidnapped and ends up, getting blown up, whatever, spoilers for a 2008 movie. But, like there's just little things like that. Like there's like a change in her face from when she puts her in the car, closes the door, and then just a subtle change in her face.
It is funny the stuff you pick up because I've also had the same thing from like listening to certain albums and stuff in different stereos.
Yeah.
So like I remember when I upgraded, I had like a shitty old Falcon, and then I got a Prado where me and my mate, we put like a new head unit and everything in it, and we also like mounted like the tweeters actually up on the dash.
Yeah.
So instead of just listening to like out of the car doors, I had like the actual sort of
what other setup did you have? Did you have like 6 inches in the doors and then 6x9s in the back?
Yeah. And it will because it was a Prado as well. Like the back door ones were I didn't have like back mounted ones.
Yeah.
So I had a sub dead in the back. I had the tweeters mounted up just above like the aircon.
So it's essentially a 7.1.
Yeah, well, yeah, because the woofer in the door and the tweeter were separate, as opposed to like with a lot of old Falcons and stuff. Like you'd still have a tweeter, but it would be in like a weird place, like under the dash or whatever.
Yeah.
But I remember I listened to, there was a Dillinger record, I think it was Ironworks I was listening to, and there was a particular song that had like a bit of brass or something in the back that I'd never heard on any other system I'd listened to it on. Yeah. And I went, I've been listening to this song for like
of the tweeters?
6-7 years, and it was coming through the tweeters and you could hear it in the background. I'm like, I've never heard that instrument on this fucking song before. And I have the same thing with rewatching movies and stuff where you go, oh, now that I know everything and I've watched this to death so many times, little nuances like that, you start to realize like, oh, they've really thought this out. Edgar Wright movies.
Yeah.
Edgar Wright movies are exactly that. You could just watch those things over and over and pick shit up every time. And yeah, it's crazy.
I still see things in the comedy movie that I just keep, every time I watch it, I've noticed tiny thing, Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah, right.
Tiny comedic things that Jim Carrey does.
Yeah.
Just body language stuff.
Yeah.
It's just like, what the fuck? Every time. And I've seen that movie so many times. I saw it in the movie at the cinema in 1994. I've seen it. That's nearly 30 years ago. It's every time I watch it, I still see something new.
A little bit of homework for you.
Here we go.
If you're looking for, I don't know if you've got like a half-hour comedy at the moment, apart from Seinfeld, which you've been watching
forever
for your entire life.
Speaking of which, Eddie Murphy.
I did see that you posted that. Yeah,
posted that because he's in that movie with You People. It's called You People.
Yeah.
With Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Yeah.
And it's an IMDb interview, and he's talking about how much he loved working with Julia because he's like, I'm such a Seinfeld fan. I watch Seinfeld every night before I go to sleep. And I was like, me too, dude.
Yeah.
It's like nice to have something in common with Eddie Murphy, like one of the biggest comedians of all time. I'm like, man, that makes me feel good.
I couldn't recommend enough right now. Schitt's Creek.
I almost brought this up before because my sister has got into it in a big way, and she said she really struggled through the first season.
Yeah, same.
And then by the time she was used to the humor,
yep,
she was in.
So same as The Office. A lot of people couldn't stand the first season of The Office, like the American Office.
Yeah, because it was a carbon copy of the English.
Well, not only was it a carbon copy, but like the English version as well, just that whole season. It's brilliant TV in a way because it is so painful. And if you have a hard time with like cringy, like watching stuff that gives you that real like empathetic cringe, right?
Yeah.
That's what turned a lot of people off. That's why The Office struggled when it first came out. They were like 3 or 4 seasons deep, and they're just like, "This is the one we get cancelled. This is when they thought they were gonna go under."
Did you see the same TikTok that I saw then? Is that what?
Maybe.
Okay, so I saw one just the other day where it was can't remember who it was talking about it, but it was one of the writers.
Yeah, right.
It's one of the writers, and they were saying like the turning point of it was with Michael Scott. They were like, no, he has to be like David Brent. We've got to stick to that template that we've got there. You can never feel sorry for this guy.
He's got to be unlikable.
He's got to be unlikable, right? And there was one of the writers in the team that was just insistent. They were like, no. This guy has got to be likable, or we'll never. Like, you've got to have like a shred. There's like a shred that you've got to feel sorry for this guy. And he said there's literally a scene that determined whether they got another season or not, and they were good from there. And it was a scene where what's the name of the Dundies?
Yeah,
he does the awards at the end of the year or whatever.
Yeah,
and he's doing the whole work, and they're at a pub or something, or at a bar doing these awards, and everyone's cringing. All of the employees are just like, oh my God, this is the most embarrassing thing of all time. And then someone external to the company starts heckling Michael on the stage and is really giving him a hard time, and it's actually getting to him.
Yeah.
And then all of the employees start to support him.
Yeah.
They get on side with him, and it changed. That, like he said, we've got to have it where there's like this shred of you cringe, but you got to have
these
this,
people still have like a little bit of respect for him, and
that they feel empathy for him and that sort of stuff.
Well,
and that they said from there, like that's what took it for seasons and seasons after that.
The way I heard it described was pessimism versus optimism. So the British version, British humour in general thrives on pessimism in the sense that everything is so dry and it's always about someone being the worst and everyone knowing that they're the worst, but like they can't stop them being the worst. Things like Faulty Towers and stuff, or like, you know, Keeping Up Appearances and those sort of things.
Oh man,
it's all based on these deeply unlikable characters, right?
Yeah.
Not that Basil Fawlty's like that unlikable, but just like these deeply flawed, can't get past their own bullshit. Yeah. Whereas, but like flawed in like a real dry British way. Yeah. Whereas the American thing, the thing that version I heard of like the writer saying is like, there's got to be, Americans' humor is like optimism based. The dumb people, the people that are cringy and hard to watch, it's because they're earnest.
Yeah.
And that was the quality they had to eke out in him. Otherwise, it's like, well, the American audience wouldn't vibe with it.
There's nothing left to. There's no humor left to draw out of him at that point. It's the same.
Yeah.
Over and over.
The Americans needed, and what most audiences need in general, is they need a like, not a they need a like they need to be like, oh no, don't
treat him like that,
no, as opposed to like, oh, what the fuck, like don't do that. Like you need that shred of like, I wish you wouldn't do that because I'm rooting for you, and you keep doing things to make me feel bad about rooting for you.
Totally.
What were we talking about before that with the... Schitt's Creek. So same thing. First season, it's a bunch of...
Eugene Levy.
It's a bunch of likable characters that make you cringe really hard and that are so... Fish out of water story, right? Rich people, they lose all their money. Their accountant had been like money laundering or whatever like that, or whatever, or stealing all their money. So they... Schitt's Creek was a town that they bought like as a joke years and years ago bought like the deed to the town or whatever because they thought it was funny.
It's a good setup.
And so
That's a great setup.
They end up going to like live
It's
there.
like their one asset they've got left.
Yeah, and of course their last name is Rose, and then the Schitt's Creek is named after like the guy who founded the place. His last name was Shit, and so the guy from Scary Movie who does like Strong Hand, Take My Strong Hand,
Oh my God,
that guy, he plays the mayor of the town, who is the descendant of the guy who founded the place, and his name is Roland Shit. Yeah. And Eugene Levy being the dad, right? You know exactly the American Pie style. Like, he plays American Pie dad, essentially, but rich.
Yeah.
But the thing that I think you'll really like about this show is not only once you get into it are the characters, like, they're turned up, but they're like, you know, they're definitely like caricature of like rich people. But there's actually some heart in like the story, and there's a bit of character development. But also, Eugene Levy's son, Dan Levy, who plays his son on the show, is like pansexual.
Okay.
And
I have that where he's talking about how I've seen that on TikTok where he's like, yes, I like a white wine, and I also like a red wine, and I tried a fantastic rosé as well.
Bit of everything.
Yeah.
And so what's interesting about it, even though it's set in a small town, and he's one of the writers on the show. I think he's one of the main writer on the show.
I didn't realize that was his son. But cool.
And also his sister is in it as well. She plays the chick that runs a diner.
Right.
But so you get all these different like really interesting sort of like character development for him through his different relationships and everything, and his humor is so natural that you actually really get attached to the characters from the point of view of like you're not watching it for the fact that he's going out with a dude this time or a chick that time. You know what I mean? Like, they're not shoehorning in diversity. They're not shoehorning in all. It's just that's who he is. You're on board with him as a character, and because the guy who plays the character is writing it, it just feels like really like a comedy show that has really good heart when it comes to writing relationships.
Love that.
You just don't think about the rest of it. And not that you should have to, but what I mean is in years gone by, like things like Will and Grace and stuff, it's very much like the premise is I'm gay.
Yeah.
That's the premise of the show is I play big gay character.
To be fair to a show like Will and Grace, that was pretty groundbreaking at the time.
Yeah, it was. But it's good to see that. Like
in the intervening 30 years, we've evolved.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah. Look, there's still a lot of tokenism in a lot of things, and not just around sexuality, around all sorts of things. But it's getting better.
I think, especially in the case of this show as well, it's someone who's writing it. He was the audience for stuff like that before, and it's a guy who has been the audience for that stuff, and now he's writing what he would actually like to see.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah?
Yeah, because the space has now been created for that.
Yeah. And it's coming more from a place of I want to write really good relationships into TV shows and what relationships are like actually like, as opposed to like I'm trying to fit a mold of like, you know, we've got to tick that box.
I'm noticing a lot more, and look, maybe it's just because I notice it more now that I've sort of like more in that world, is like I'm noticing more that there's just like less fucks given about like having to like establish that this character's gay or is pansexual or bisexual or whatever, and they just fall in love with whoever they fall in love with.
That's exactly how they treat it.
And it just happens in the show, and it's not treated like a big like, oh my God, like wow, what a reveal. It's just like people are treating sexuality like it's a, like just people are people, and
the whole first season of the show,
attraction is whoever you're attracted to.
They didn't bring it up for the whole first season of the show, as in like he was just a character who is like comes across as a pretty sort of like, camp sort of dude. He's an artist, and like his whole vibe seems that way. It seems like that kind of character.
But his
in the first
sexuality
place.
isn't brought up because it's not relevant to
It's
the
not
plot.
fucking relevant.
Yeah,
exactly
correct.
right. You're watching him because that's the kind of person he is. That's the character. The character he's playing is basically him turned up as like a, as that
Amplified.
kind of... Exactly. But like, it's not relevant. And then when there is
a relevant plot,
it gets like mentioned as the same as any sort of exposition would be mentioned, but like not dwelled on. It's fucking great.
I kind of feel like that's
refreshing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Refreshing. Like a couple of white guys sitting around making a podcast. We're at the 125 mark now. I think we could probably
wrap things up.
Yeah, wrap her up, boys. We should have the music. We'll probably get claimed.
I'm starting to, because I'm working in digital marketing, I'm starting to see like I loaded an ad today that used like the original music. I'm like, it was for a tribute band playing at a pub, but they've like got the music, like the original music. I'm like, is that not going to get pulled up? Yeah. And I don't think it will, because it's a paid for ad. Yeah. And I'm like, hang on, how's that work? Yeah. So it's interesting to me where that's going. It's
I've been looking through all that stuff at the moment because I want to start a pop punk covers act, essentially.
Yeah. I think as long as you put your own versions of up, it will be fine.
I've got an idea at the moment that I won't say too much about, but basically I want to like do covers of songs, record covers of songs for people and sort of like personalize them a little bit. Yeah. But then I'm like, well, if I'm selling that to people, there's got to be licensing implications there. Even if I'm fully recording it, if I'm using somebody else's instrumental that I've recorded.
Too true.
If I'm using the riff from a song, like a pop punk song. If I use Taking Back Sunday, like Cute Without the E, the riff from the start of that, if I record that in the song, so it's clearly like I'm using the instrumental of that song, even if I play that, and then I change the lyrics completely and then sell that to somebody as a commission.
Yeah, there's copyright in the melody.
How does Cameo work like that? That's what I want to know. Tell us in the comments. How the fuck does Cameo work when it comes to playing other people's shit? Because if they're paying you to play their music and then you play them somebody else's music and they've paid for that, is it because they pay you ahead of time and you just send them a video? Does that make it okay? Or if that you package up a song of you, like a copy of you playing something, and then send it to someone as a video and they go, yes, sweet, I'll pay for that.
And if it were just for them and they're receiving it, they're only playing it in their own presence, then that would probably be okay because it's not a public performance. But most people go ahead and post those on socials. So where's the legality?
How does Patreon work? If you run a YouTube channel and you do covers for a living, and most of your covers are probably getting claimed on YouTube, I would think you don't get a lot of AdSense out of doing covers of people's songs. I'm pretty sure. So if that's the case, then when you have a Patreon and you're like, oh, hey, sign up for the Patreon, and every week we put out a new cover just on the Patreon or whatever, aren't you technically getting paid to release music that's somebody else's? Like, there's got to be licensing implications there. And you know what? Google would probably solve this, but you're going to tell us in the comments.
No, APRA and PPCA will be the answers there.
Yeah, yep.
Because they chase down. Like I had a mate who had a gym, and like they chase down new businesses. Yeah. To go, are you playing music in your store, gym, cafe, whatever? Like they rang and harassed him, going like, "Are you playing commercially licensed songs?" And he said, "No, I'm not. I'm playing royalty-free music." Which, like,
no, you won't.
No, you're not. But like, also, like, have you ever listened to royalty-free music? It sucks.
Yeah,
of course you wouldn't.
Yeah,
but like, they harassed him, man, and like, he didn't have a good business model, whereby like him paying the licensing fees, like it would have wrecked his business. It's like, it's a terrible business model, but like, it's costly.
Straight up, I used to work at an airport that played just the radio.
Yeah,
all the time.
Do you still need to pay a?
You're not supposed to broadcast the radio in your like place of business. Technically, because it's
you got to still pay APRA and PPCA royalties.
No, yeah.
If you're going to play that.
No, but what I mean is they just had the radio. They literally had a dead set. They had
wireless.
The whole like speaker system for the whole place comes back to 1 amp in a rack in the server room, and there was dead set like a little radio, right? Like a
just plugged in with the headphone jack.
like a little just like AC radio, and then just plugged into the headphone jack for the whole terminal. And that was
in the terminal.
In the terminal, bro,
I thought you meant in the workshop.
No. In the airport, right? And so in the end, me and the other guy that worked there,
Don't put two and two together on this one.
We did the right thing because we changed it. We went, oh, hang on, you guys can't be doing that. Like it was like that when we rocked up. And so it was like, we can't be doing that. So we went and we had to buy like an actual licensed music box that you plug in and everything.
Was it Nightlife?
Mood music.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, I used to send them tracks
to
add. They never added a single one because I was only sending them metal.
Fair. For the record, we did rectify that at that particular airport.
What a lord. Douglas, out here looking out for artists.
That's what we're here for. We're going to get out of here?
Yeah, why not?
All right.
See you in a fortnight.
Yeah, catch you, nerds.
Bye.